Welcome back everyone. As always, there are huge amounts of Skyrim mods being released every day, and as a result, there will always be a few gems that get missed and slip under the radar. That's why today, I want to showcase some lesser known mods that I would consider underrated and deserve a little more attention. First and foremost is a mod I never knew I needed called Piercing Expert Spells, which as written on the box, allows your expert destruction spells to pierce their target and damage the enemies behind. In Skyrim, each new level of destruction magic has a certain theme, starting with the novice spells, which are all channeling and require you to hold down the attack key. The apprentice level spells are your basic fire and forget that do slightly more damage. At adept level, things start to ramp up, with each element gaining an area of effect such as fireball, froststorm or chain lightning. And then we have the expert spells, which are a little boring and are pretty much just stronger versions of the apprentice spell. On top of that, in my experience anyway, it's almost always better and more practical to use the adept level spell over the expert. While this mod changes that, or at least provides some extra usability, by adding a bit of flavour to the expert spells, meaning you get that nice bump in damage, as well as being able to hit multiple targets with each cast. A really great and well balanced addition that brings some more utility to expert level destruction magic. Up next is an underrated perk overhaul that will change how you play Skyrim. This mod is called Master of One, a double-edged perk overhaul. The main feature of this mod makes every perk you unlock give both a benefit and a drawback. At face value, this may seem a little strange, but it has been done in a very balanced and unique manner. Essentially, each perk now has 5 ranks that you can unlock. With each rank, the buff increases, but at the expense of another trait. For example, in the sneak tree, the perk called Muffle Movement makes sneaking more silent, but also slower. What I love about this system is it allows you to make very specific builds with a certain strength and weakness, encouraging you to actually think about what you are choosing. You will no longer become a godlike dragonborn who can essentially do everything and anything. Instead, you will need to hone in and specialize on a certain number of traits that fit your character's playstyle. Each perk tree also has no perk requirements, instead relying on skill level alone, meaning if you wanted a certain perk, you will not require any previous perks to unlock it. Instead, you only require a certain skill level threshold for that perk tree. I found this a great way to encourage player progression without forcing you to obtain perks that you never wanted in the first place. Another feature that I really like about this mod is that you are given some vanilla perks automatically that are no longer included in this perk overhaul. For example, with the archery skill, the Eagle Eye ability will be unlocked automatically, allowing you to zoom in with your bow, or for all magic skills, dual casting is unlocked right from the start of the game. This means you basically start with most gameplay mechanics already unlocked, and the new perks are there to passively increase your character traits and abilities. Now this perk overhaul won't be for everyone, but it is very underrated and one I have been using for a long time, encouraging you to put a lot of thought into your build selection and think ahead about the pros and cons of each perk and where you want your character to end up. Then we have the mod called Forgotten Uniques. You may not know, but Skyrim has a large selection of unique items, and other than a select few, such as Spellbreaker or the Dawnbreaker, most you would never actually use because they either have a very uninspired and weak effect, or no effect at all. This mod simply adds or enhances the enchantment of these items to make them more useful and desirable to obtain. For example, if we look at the General Tullius armor, which you can only obtain after completing the Civil War questline, has no effect at all, but with this mod it gains an enchantment that will buff all allies around you, making it vastly more useful for certain builds. Each enchantment also relates to the flavour of the item as well. Another example being Ulfric's Braces, which again had no effect at all, but will now decrease the cooldown of your shouts. Very fitting for a piece of armour personally worn by Ulfric. A lot of these items also required you to complete a quest but often the reward was never really worth it until now. A great little mod that makes unique items actually unique and more enticing to play with. Next is the most underrated mod in this whole list, called Cyan's Class mod, which only has just over 100 downloads. Now there are many different class mods you can pick and choose from, but most don't make any drastic changes, usually increasing some skills or giving you some additional starting equipment. But this mod is more unique by actually giving your character build-defining skills and effects right from the start. How it works: once you download the mod, you'll be given a book that describes each class and the passive abilities each one has. After reading, you'll be given the option to choose from each of the 11 classes, all inspired by Oblivion. A few examples include the Assassin's class, which is given significant sneak ability, double damage and poison to all daggers, and a new spell that will lure enemies to its location. The Barbarian, who can deal more damage, move faster, and at low health will enter a frenzy, causing all enemies to flee in fear, as well as the ability to execute enemies at low health. Which all sounds very good, but they also cannot gain experience in the heavy armor or one-handed skills, putting a massive restriction on the build type you can play when choosing this class. Another option is the Battle Mage, who specializes at wielding both magic and weaponry, and has the passive ability where low magicka will increase stamina regeneration and low stamina will increase magicka regeneration, creating a nice synergy between the mage and warrior archetypes, perfect for a spell sword build. All classes feel very unique from one another, and what I like about this mod is they all complement a specific build and allow you to roleplay as your desired character right from the very beginning, as well as providing a significant buff or ability to that certain class that you otherwise could not obtain. And while some aspects may be very strong, I think it's a fun way for you to shape and build your own character how you want to play the game. Next is a mod that has quickly become an essential addition to my personal mod list, called Sentinel and Equipment Overhaul. This mod takes armor and weapons from some of the best equipment mods, including Sons of Skyrim, the Iridium-born collection, and many more, then distributes them to the world of Skyrim in an immersive and meaningful way, meaning certain NPCs and factions will now have new armor to wear, such as the Companions, the Vigilant of Stendar, and Orc strongholds, which provide a lot more variation and in turn leads to more unique encounters throughout the game. On top of that, and most importantly, it allows you to craft and buy these new armor and weapons for yourself, and for me, created a vastly improved gameplay experience where I was finding new and improved equipment throughout my entire adventure, instead of seeing the same old iron and steel armor over and over again. In fact, I was so impressed by this mod that I uninstalled a lot of my other Armor Edition mods just to use this one. And while all this new equipment may not be exactly lore friendly, they do fit the art style of Skyrim very well and feel natural within the world, as well as being an all-in-one installation for a huge selection of different armor and weapons. And by the same author, we have another underrated mod called Thuldor's Ivarstead. A town often visited, in the early game Ivarstead is located at the foot of the throat of the world and is your classic Skyrim town, with basic farmhouses and a central tavern, but with this overhaul, Ivarstead will transform into a beautiful, cozy hamlet with Nordic-inspired architecture and features an imposing guard tower, small town square, and a statue of Mara. There are also new NPCs, including a merchant, blacksmith, and a priest, making the town feel more alive and an important pit stop on your journey. Truly a stunning town overhaul that also includes a large collection of patches for those who need it, as I'm sure most of you will. Then we have a small immersion mod called No Compass and Dialogue that will automatically toggle the compass when talking with another NPC. It's a very small detail that builds upon your immersion in game and makes it feel a little more cinematic. There is also an MCM where you can set a hotkey to manually toggle the compass on and off if you wish for a completely immersive gameplay experience. Another small underrated mod by the same author is called Smithing XP from Mining, Tanning and Smelting, that simply allows you to gain smithing experience when performing any of the 3 actions of mining ore from one of Skyrim's several mines, tanning your animal skins into leather, or smelting your ore and spare metal into ingots. Overall, this mod just makes sense and opens up another reliable way to level your smithing in-game. Up next is probably the most unique mod from this list, called Animunculi Override, which allows you to hack Dwemer automatons through a mini-game. With this mod, you can simply sneak up to any Dwemer robot, and as long as you have what's called a Surge module, choose to hack and disable them as you want. With one small catch, you must complete the minigame first. How it works: a cog will appear on your screen with 4 knobs at the end of each pathway. Simply select a starting point, and you will get 8 seconds to trace your mouse along the pathway and reach the gem in the center without touching the edges of your path. It is actually quite hard, and if you fail, the automaton will become alerted to your presence. This is really just a fun and creative way to disable the Dwemer machines, similar to picking a lock. There is also an option to add a custom perk tree that comes with several perks to make your hacking more efficient and powerful. A fantastic little mod. Up next is a little quality of life mod called Some Collision Camera, which is an edit of the No Collision Camera mod, and removes camera collision with objects such as trees or walls, while retaining collision with terrain and rocks. In Skyrim, you may have experienced when in third person, the camera will collide with objects such as a wall or tree, forcing the camera to move very close to your character. This effect gets even worse when inside a dungeon or building interior where the walls are very confined. But now with this mod, you can remove camera collision with certain objects, allowing you to walk freely through a forest or in and around objects, while still maintaining your perfect camera view. This does come with a small trade-off, where the camera will occasionally clip through walls or objects, but is a much better option in my opinion, keeping your gameplay flowing in a smooth fashion without too many interruptions. Then we have a small immersion mod simply called Pigeons, as part of Mihail's Monster and Animal series. This mod will add several pigeons to the cities and towns all over Skyrim, making the world feel more natural and bringing some life to each location. It's really a small detail, but one that adds a significant amount to your game, kind of like an ambient background that you don't often interact with, but adds a touch of immersion to each city. And on the plus side, the birds are very cute. On a similar note, we have the mod called Spider Work in Progress, which isn't really underrated, but deserves some more attention in my opinion. This mod will overhaul the spider webs you find in dungeons to not only look significantly better, but also interact with the light correctly, and the result is absolutely fantastic. Not only do the spider webs look visually stunning, but they make dungeons feel a lot more creepy, and although it's still a work in progress, this mod is well worth a download and will make exploring the dark corners of Skyrim a lot more interesting. Next is a mod I've been using for a while called Holmgang, an MCO ADXP moveset for NPCs, which adds weapon-specific movesets inspired by Assassin's Creed Valhalla to Skyrim. I want to reiterate that these animations are solely for NPCs, and through the power of Scar, provide these NPCs the ability to perform different weapon attack combos and make your enemies more interactive and challenging to fight against. And although inspired by AC Valhalla, I find these animations blend very well with the Nordic races of Skyrim, as well as the aggressive nature of many combat mods, altogether creating a deadly, fast-paced combat experience. Then we have a literal deadly mod called Skyrims Dead, which adds hanging bodies outside several cities and along the roadside for all to see. Often mods can make Skyrim seem like a bright and happy place, but in reality it has several factions fighting with one another, and as a result many people die in-game. This mod plays into that, portraying the brutal nature of conflict and providing a much darker atmosphere to your game. It also serves as a reminder to what happens to the losing side, and I think lends itself well to the harsh environment of Skyrim, as well as being an immersion mod with a dark side that often isn't the case. A great mod that builds upon the world of Skyrim. And lastly, we have a simple replacer mod called TB's Photorealistic Roads, which provides 3 options for the roads around Whiterun. All 3 look great, ranging from cobbled stones to a dirt pathway and something in between. They also all have parallax support to gain that nice 3D effect, and for what it's worth, my personal favourite is the dirt pathway, but I will let you decide on your own. And that's it for this video on some underrated mods that deserve some more attention. I hope you found a couple of gems to add to your mod list. Otherwise, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again next time. Happy modding everyone.